Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. In your experience, what's the most memorable instance of a "you have no power here" moment? Part 2. After claiming they wouldn't force us to move our building, the larger company that bought our little business announced that they were moving us. It happened so fast that the best option, which improved everyone's commute, was located directly across the street from their building, and a director-level leak revealed that while it improved commute for 17 people, it made them worse for everyone else. The benefit was changed to, "But we're building you a brand new building." IT is looking for volunteers to assist them with the relocation of over 250 employee workstations over the course of 3 days. Volunteers should have some knowledge of systems administration and/or hardware setup. In the end, 12 of us were working on unboxing computers, finding cables, hooking everything back up, testing their Ethernet connection, and wiring up the switches one at a time. They had to fly in some of the IT staff from the HQ in another state to assist. The entire Saturday spent dismantling all of the workstations across 3 floors of the building, meticulously labeling everything, and packing all of the computers into the unique red "Open Me First" boxes. Our highly compensated electrical consultant, who was meant to approve our hub room, vanished, costing us half a Saturday. Our facilities manager eventually found him an hour and a half south in his rented convertible because he thought we weren't ready yet. Even worse, all of the red boxes in the pallet are missing. We discovered they were sent to the incorrect wing. The facilities manager gets fired and asks a friend for help. We have to rewire a portion of the downstairs hub room on Monday because one of our 12 students is the child of the new president. His dad sent him there because he thought it would be a good experience, but he was simply plugging things in without labeling the cables and was later sent home. When Tuesday morning rolls around, we have a war room ready for anyone who needs help with setups that aren't functioning. People were told, if your computer's down and you see one of us in the halls, flag us down so we can get you up and running faster. Each of the now 11 people who worked over the long weekend and knew where things were given a special red shirt, a no-frills red t-shirt that didn't even fit one of us, so he tied it around his neck like a cape. At the sight of the lone red shirt left unclaimed, the administrative assistant to the new president declared her desire for it. According to the head of IT, those are only for the helpers who can fix things. She's not tech-savvy, sends emails in all caps on behalf of the president, and can't even wear her Star Trek badge right side up. "Well, I'm the president's admin, and that makes me automatic help staff," she says. "You should be responsible for making sure the command staff has their offices up and running." I tested them myself, I remarked. They were the first individuals to turn on their computers. That good minion smile she gives me. Those are for people who are going to be asked to fix problems directly, the IT lead reiterates. Are you able to troubleshoot hardware malfunctions, boot up issues, and figure out which cable goes where? If I have a problem with people, I can always just send them down here. An ideal non-response. The chief IT officer says as she walks out to oversee somebody else, "Does she even know that being in a red shirt in Star Trek means that you're cannon fodder?" "Only in Classic," I answered. "I'm a Classic guy," he said. Half an hour later, a trouble ticket shows up in our makeshift trouble queue, a set of baskets marked high, medium, and low priority with paper slips describing the problem and your office number. It's from her. "Printer isn't working," is all it says. IT lead says, "She's got a red shirt, she can fix it herself." She visits a half hour later and inquires as to why her printer hasn't been fixed yet. The tech says, "We're a lot slammed here. Use a different printer to print to. The printers in the hallways are operational." She adds, "But it's important." After the higher priority tasks are completed, we'll address it. The West Wing's entire second floor is destroyed. I wonder if I should go check on her after she wanders off. Her office was done by me. I sense accountability. Nope, he responds. I need you to concentrate on getting our backlog down, and I gave her an appropriate solution. An hour or two, she came by again when none of us were there and left a third ticket. Printer is still down. Her 3 tickets are all in the high basket. The IT lead gathers all 3 of her slips and places them in the waste basket, or no priority file. Are you sure you want to keep her waiting? I said. He shrugged. She's powerless over us. The vice president and president's office are operating smoothly. On my last pass, I stopped by to see how they were doing. But you didn't check her printer? Oh, I did while she was at lunch, he replied. It was unplugged because she plugged her desk lamp in. We can't be responsible for personal items interfering with our equipment. Her ticket was the only one still in the basket at the end of the day. I guess tomorrow we can send someone up with a power strip, he remarked. At my job, I'm in middle management. I've worked for the company for 22 years, and during that time, I've learned a lot and become proficient in many areas. However, from a title standpoint, I don't really aim for higher positions because I actually prefer working alone rather than managing others. Since I've burned no A's and saved many, I have a different kind of authority that's respected by the majority of the leaders. However, there are times when my ego gets in the way and doesn't want to hear anything from me. It's not bothersome to me, but I'm accustomed to it, and it usually doesn't work well for them. My best example was a new project manager overseeing something I wasn't directly involved in but was frequently consulted on. I offered recommendations regarding possible hazards and methods to reduce them in case they desired to proceed with the project while acknowledging those risks. He essentially told me that because I was adverse to change, I wasn't more successful because individuals like me stifle creativity. Remember that I never advised against moving forward. Rather, I prefer to do so with caution and backup plans in place because, well, bad things do happen. I believe he had problems mostly with women. Whoever it was that predictably it all went south on him and severely damaged the business in ways I'd listed as risks to prevent or mitigate. And because he was a general jerk, people quickly alerted our COO to his disdain for my counsel. The COO was peed off. She told you all this? He asked her. Her? And you dismissed it? Could any of this have been prevented? It all goes without saying that he quit the company soon after. After that, the COO asked me to give him direct access to any and all advice of that kind going forward so he could make sure that leaders were held responsible for taking action. And his direct reports are aware not to disregard my advice hastily. The lesson of the tale is to not be an A because power does not always come with a title. Don't be afraid. People like me can actually be a benefit to you. I would already have your job if I wanted it. Do you have a story about your most unpleasant neighbor or homeowners association HOA? Part 2. Townhome. D-bag next to me was the son of rich parents and went to a fancy DC private school. But from his Facebook, he's barely literate. His costly education was wasted as he enlisted in the Marines, where he was purportedly a sniper, returned, and from what I gather, served some lengthy or brief jail sentence in the South before eventually hitting up the woman who would become his wife. For the first year or so that I lived there, neither of his parents worked. They purchased a townhouse and covered the mortgage for the apartment next to the one I moved into. Not much is known about her past. She was a piece of work herself. As we were in the corner of the parking lot, the D-bag objected that I had parked one of my 3 cars in the unreserved spot closest to our units. However, since it wasn't my primary car, it remained there for days at a time. He was adamant that his spouse be permitted to utilize the area. My place is at the end of the row closest to us, followed by his, the unreserved, then 2 more spaces reserved for other units, etc. In the center of the parking lot was an island where parking was prohibited due to a fire zone, but there was plenty of additional space 40 yards away. Since I don't often drive my 3rd car, I parked it in a completely different part of the neighborhood, and it wasn't parked in front of any houses. Nevertheless, I simply replied, "Well, then you park down the way and let her park in the reserved spot out front," in response to his insistence that his wife shouldn't have to walk that far with their young child and other things. That would not be with him. He continued to become combative. At one point, he physically barked at me at my door. I refused to put up with his antics. Then, without warning, one day he files a report claiming to have seen me purposefully and repeatedly slam my SUV's rear door into the side of his car. As a result, I'm charged with malicious destruction of property. In the meantime, my car's blue, theirs are both silver, and when my door is open, the outermost part of mine is roughly 5 inches higher than the line of the markings on his, and there's not a trace of blue in them. Indeed, the marks extended over a foot or more along the fender. This is not consistent with the one intentional act he claims to have seen. Later on, I was able to ascertain that the marks were precisely aligned such that, should he succeed in parking in the highly sought-after space adjacent to his reserve spot, the rear door of her car would collide with his fender. She would forcefully load and unload their child from the back seat on the right. After we went to mediation on the matter, charges were eventually dropped for lack of evidence. A few weeks later, one late evening, I return home, and there he is, daggers pointed at me from his porch. I ignore him. Short while later, the police pay me a visit. It appears that he has a significant ding on the side of his car, and naturally he believes I did it. He responded earlier that day when asked when it had occurred. I had proof that I was away for the day, so it couldn't have been me. You look like a real A now that you've cried wolf once. It's time to exact revenge now. I first attempt to sue him in small claims court to recover the retainer I paid for getting ready to defend myself, but I'm not successful. They made every effort to take the unreserved space whenever possible. They even switched cars when they happened to leave with the car that it was in, etc. I therefore installed a streaming webcam to capture the parking lot below my upstairs window. I could see when she would go during the day to get cigarettes or whatever while he was at work because I worked literally 2 minutes away. She would frequently see me pulling into the neighborhood as she left. I'd park my other car farther away and leave the one I was driving in the desired spot again. I happened to notice a fire truck out front one day while I'm watching the feed. I sneak out of work to investigate the commotion, walk around the neighborhood, and then head back outside. He's going to pull in as I'm leaving, but he follows me instead. He follows me everywhere I go for a few minutes, regardless of the situation. When I finally pull up to a roadside pupusa truck and get out like I'm gonna order, this A-hat pulls up right next to my truck in the middle of the road and starts staring at me while I'm talking on the phone. I head back to my truck, order some food, and make a police call before I leave. He eventually gives up on me. The police report indicates that she may have reported a hazmat situation in the backyard of their home, citing pepper spray on their trash can that she claimed she got on her hands and face and that she had placed there. Even worse, he says he saw me watching the scene from across the neighborhood, even though I can prove I was at work when he saw me. Complete nonsense. Nothing resulted from this. The next thing I did was rearrange my whole living room so that our shared wall now housed our TV and massive speakers, which had previously been placed against the outside wall of my apartment. I then start playing music, watching loud action movies, repeating the most intense scenes over and over, and keeping an eye on the webcam upstairs for the police to arrive so that I can lower the volume to a more reasonable, but still loud enough that it could be heard, but not loud enough to be cause for complaint. I'm not a complete D, but I never did this after 8 p.m. After he had contacted them at least 4 times, they finally advised him to quit wasting their time. After 2 years, I moved away, but kept track of them through the state's court records. Traffic infractions, including multiple accidents, driving on a suspended license, leaving the scene of an accident, flashing lights on an unauthorized vehicle, and speeding. Illegal vehicle theft, probation violation, and impersonating a police officer he'd posted on the department's Facebook page. I died laughing. He and his wife divided and divorced. To cut a long story short, our community has been around for an extended period of time, less than 2 years. The developer recently transferred control of the property to the homeowners. Initially, everything went smoothly. However, our president sold her home and moved out, and she was replaced by an absolute sea of the highest order following her departure. On a weekly basis, she would walk around and conduct inspections. If there's only one weed in the front planter bed, a written caution is issued. Is the grass 0.5 inches higher than it should be? A written caution's issued. It's clear to you now. In any case, she brought up some ridiculous ideas during a recent meeting of the HOA, which were met with strong opposition from the community. Just to give you an example, she had the intention of tearing down the nature preserve area that was located behind my house and constructing a community clubhouse. Additionally, she wanted to have a community pool installed in addition to a long list of other community-s about people over the age of 55. For your information, the majority of our neighborhood is comprised of younger people who simply want to be left alone. She responded to my neighbor's question about how the community could afford all this by saying, and I quote, "Everyone that lives here is rich and can afford the increase in dues." As a consequence of this, there was a shouting match and the meeting was terminated shortly after that. We had reached the point where we were so fed up with it that we put in a petition for a recall, which was signed by almost everyone. A special meeting was scheduled to take place in order to validate the results. However, I just received an email informing me that she, along with the other members of the board, had officially resigned. The petitioners who were leading the recall effort are going to take control of the situation. They're only interested in maintaining the landscaping of the common areas and, for the most part, leaving us alone. Tremendous victory for all those involved. If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many, many thanks for your support.